We got Alexis Upshaw here calling in, model extraordinaire. I appreciate your time, Lexi. I know it's about 10 p.m. in Paris right now. Tell me what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, it's no problem at all. Thanks for having me, actually. Yeah, it's an honor to be talking with you right now, actually. Yeah, not much. I've just been, not much, I say. I'm in Paris right now. I just got through with Paris Fashion Week. So, Fashion Week is always insane, to be honest with you, with models. It's Milan Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. I didn't participate in New York Fashion Week this year, or this season, I mean, but hopefully eventually I get to that level. But it's been busy. There's a lot of castings that go on during Fashion Week. Not sure if you know of that, but it's all the models that come all around the world are just working their butts off, the same as me, just trying to get to all these castings and, at these castings for hours, trying to meet with designers and, get an opportunity to do some sort of work in any show or a presentation. And it's crazy to see the dedication that there is with other models. Like, it's insane, like, it's inspiring, but there's so much competition that it's just so tiring. So I'm definitely gassed for it to be over. Like, I love it, but I'm glad to be able to relax for a little bit.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. And I don't have any knowledge of this world, and this is something I'm definitely looking forward to getting into. And before I do, I just want to take the people back a little bit because this is wild for me too, because you and I went like to middle school together, we went to high school together, and like we've known each other since then. And I ended up moving away in the 10th grade for the two of us, right? And then sort of we got split up at that point, but we've watched each other grow. We've kept in contact. So I guess I just want to ask you, how did you go from living in Nova Scotia, because we both lived in a very small town, how did you first start taking those first steps into modeling that brought you to where you are right now?
Oh yeah, wow, okay. First of all, yeah, I just want to say like, definitely is great growing up with you and seeing you on doing your thing is crazy, by the way, as well. It's just insane.
Thanks.
But I saw it for both of us in the future, definitely. But yeah, so getting out of Halifax is definitely difficult in the modeling industry or any industry, as you know. It's just for artists, it's so small and it is growing right now, but it's just crazy. So for me, I feel like it was just kind of being at the right place at the right time because I never really wanted to pursue modeling. It wasn't really something that I saw for myself. I wasn't like that girl in high school or anything like that was growing up that always felt like overly pretty or doing anything like that I thought that I could see a career out of myself doing that. Like it just kind of there was an audition that was on Kijiji. It was a scam audition, to be honest with you. And it
Really?
said, Toronto, yeah, and it just said Toronto agent coming to this hotel, doing auditions to see if you can come into the agency. So my mom said, you should go do that. So I decided to do that, and I signed with them, and they said, you're great, but we need you to do a test photo shoot. And they asked me for $1,700 to do a photo shoot,
Oh,
which is obviously a scam. So that was disappointing. So I was
so
with
that was
them
your
for a
first
little bit.
run-in?
Yeah, that was my first experience with the model world. But at the time in Halifax, again, like as you know, it's so small and there's nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
anything just sounds good. Like if anyone's gonna give you that golden ticket, you're gonna take it. So I ran with that. A few months went by. Atlantic Fashion Week came to Halifax, which is like the only thing we really have for Fashion Week or anything like that. And I wanted to do it, and I was confused why my agency didn't tell me anything about it, which led me to realize that they were a scam agency. Like they didn't know anything about Fashion Week. They didn't even know my name
Mm.
when I emailed about them. Or about it. So it was just, kind of all over the place. So I ended up going to Fashion Week, asking all the designers individually, like, do you need someone to walk for you? And they all said no. And then I ended up going to an audition for this other agency. Sorry, it's a long story, but I ended up going to an audition for another agency, and it was from Fredericton, called Scout Development Agency. And they saw me do an audition, and they, I guess, had sent over my measurements to a designer that needed somebody to walk. So I walked Atlantic Fashion Week. I ended up getting signed with Scout. They got me out of my scam agency. They developed me. I did workshops for walking and posing and everything like that. And after
Wow.
that, they developed me to go to Toronto, where I met with agencies and ended up signing with Elite Toronto, where they've pushed me to do international things. So that's why I'm in Paris now. So that's how it kind of snowballed into what it is now. Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. So, like now that you have some experience in this world, do you feel like a lot of models fall for scams, and do you feel like maybe some of them don't realize it as soon as you did?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, to be fair, I didn't realize it that soon. I think that a lot of girls, it's easy because they're promised that hope, like that's what they're excited about. Like it's so easy to get fooled into something when you're so hopeful and it's like your dream in front of your eyes. So I think a lot of girls unfortunately do get scammed into a lot of things that have to do with modeling and acting and those sort of things for sure.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. It's sort of like music contracts that you'll have like fake record label emails that go around or different things like that. I guess like they can find any way to sort of capitalize off people who have a dream. So it's good. You got your proper modeling contract. Now, when you started working with the people in Toronto, did you move there right away or did that take some time? How did that work out?
So I was lucky to have two aunts in Toronto that they've done so much for me. I don't know where I'd be really without them. So I stayed with them, and that allowed me to work in Toronto. I actually never moved to Toronto for work. Like it would be more of I would go to Toronto for 3 months and then come back to Nova Scotia kind of thing off and on. And when I would go
Right.
to Toronto, I would go and build my book. Like you need to build your book in order to get clients. So it would be test shooting, doing free shoots and editorial shoots and stuff just to have a book and a portfolio really of photos. And that would acquire clients, which would, end up direct booking me. So I would go back home after building up my book and doing all these test shoots, and I'd get home and I would get an email from my agent saying, this client, so and so, this brand, they want to hire you for this job. So then they would fly me and pay for my flights and pay me for a job, and then, fly me home. And that's what would
Wow.
start happening more in Toronto. So once that started happening, you start getting more traction, more experience with shooting and stuff like that. And then that's when you get pushed to an international market. So your agency will push you and just internationally kind of blast you to everyone. And certain agencies will respond back and say, I want to have this girl abroad. And then that's when you'll do an on stay or work in a certain city for a certain amount of time.
Okay, so that makes sense. So when they start sending you out there and you're dealing with their schedules and you're in different cities, what was that like for you to adapt? Like what type of schedule are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the schedule is insane. It's just you either don't know or it's craziness. Like it's with certain things, it can be a week of working straight, like 6 a.m. call time to 6 p.m. call time, and then the next day you're doing the same thing, or a fashion show that's you're getting called in at 8 in the morning and then finishing around the call times for fashion shows are like 6 hours ahead. So you're there like all day. So
Wow.
depending on your schedule, it can really fluctuate. It can be, working constantly for 2 weeks and then it'll just be a dead season or a dry spell where you don't work. And I think that's why, you really have to have a lot of ability to kind of just like be on your own and do your own thing in this industry, because there's a lot of downtime where you're alone in like big places and cities where you don't really know anyone other than the inside of the industry. And it's just kind of like it does take a toll on a lot of people, I think. And it's really it's hard to adapt to that kind of schedule because it's a lot at once. It's a rush of dopamine, working and getting amped up and hyped up all the time, and then you go from that to nothing. So it's just really I know a lot of artists have said that before in the past, but it is really true that you go from that high to doing nothing and just sitting around. So it does take a lot out of you, but at the same time it is so worth it to get to see that and experience that. So
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, and I can definitely draw a lot of parallels to, like I said before, other types of entertainment through this. So it's interesting to learn about it. In terms of dealing with other models, how much do you end up interacting with them? Because you mentioned there's a lot of waiting time. Do you guys typically wait together, or do you end up going somewhere on your own?
yeah, so it definitely depends. So if you're doing it on stay, usually your agency will place you in a model apartment. So depending on where you get placed, you don't really have any say in it. Obviously, if you get somewhere and you hate it, no one's going to force you to stay there.
Right.
However, sometimes model apartments will have 2 girls, 8 girls, 10 girls, 1 girl. You might be there alone. So you'll interact with models at model apartment, at castings. You can get there and it might be a request casting for just you for something, and you might get there and it's just you that the designer's seeing. Or it could be a casting where it's just an open casting or still request, and there's like 20 girls in the room with you. So, and it's really interesting to see the dynamic actually, because you can see that some girls are just really eyes on the prize, not interested in talking to anyone. And then some girls are really there to socialize and make friends. So that's another place where you would see models, or if you go into the agency. Another thing that I don't think a lot of people know about is these things that are like promoter dinners. So as soon as you kind of go to do an on stay, you'll have a promoter in your DMs kind of being like, I know you're coming to Paris, like you should come out. So they get paid more if they have a lot of pretty girls with them, so you'll go out to these dinners, and all of the people attending the dinners will be other models as well. So you'll interact with other models at promoter dinners as well. So you definitely do see them a lot, and you do interact with them a lot. So you see them a lot when you're around, and they're also in the same position as you, because a lot of them aren't from where you will be in an on stay. Like a lot of the girls that I know in Paris now aren't from Paris. So like it's nice, definitely nice getting to know the people around you and making those kind of connections.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a little bit of a mixture because there's people from all types of different places. So that's really interesting stuff. So transitioning, you talked about like the schedule with the Toronto work, your first on stays where they were sending you out to different places. So when did you start? Like, what was your first international shoot? Tell me about that one.
My first international shoot, my first on stay would be when Chadwick Models in Australia requested to have me for an on stay for a couple of months. So I went to Australia in March, I believe, of last year. Yeah, about this time last year I was there. So I was shooting for, various brands. When you do an on stay, it's not necessary that you're going to have a specific job unless it's direct booking. So, that's my first on stay. For jobs, one of my first direct bookings would probably just be one of the ones in Toronto. But in Australia, it's just a lot of e-commerce. Like I did some commercial things that were really great. However, for me, it wasn't really my market. Like there's a lot of trends in certain markets. In certain markets, Australia, you think of beaches, you think of bikinis, you think of, blonde girls that are tan. In my opinion, this is how I experienced it. I can't talk for everyone, of course, but I think that that's more of the market in Australia. I think that they're kind of catering to more that kind of look, and that's not what look I have. So it wasn't. I've gotten work in Australia, but it's not somewhere that I would continuously go back and forth for work, because it wasn't somewhere where I'd think that it was very lucrative for me and very, not that much work. But there was a couple of good showrooms there and everything that were pretty great. I did a shoot that was on a beach, which is really great as well. It's just like it's something different every day. So that's something that you get to look forward to, definitely. So Australia was pretty great. I wouldn't mind going back. It was pretty hot.
Yeah, that sounds like some great experience for sure. So you find that you sort of more fit in with the London Paris sort of vibe then.
Just from what I've experienced so far, to be honest with you, I've recently signed in Germany as well, in Spain, so I'm really excited to, and Barcelona in Spain, and I'm really excited to, so I'm really excited to start working out there, and see how that goes. But so far, London has been amazing. Linden Staub is my agency in London. They're absolutely amazing. They're changing the game with modeling. They usually with payment, you will have to wait 3 months to get paid, but my agency in London is doing this thing where they're not doing this thing, they're doing something that they've been doing since the agency started, but it's that they pay their models the day after a job. So that's a huge thing in the market, to be able to get paid that much, and that frequently, because I feel like a lot of agencies have the ability to do that, but they just don't. And I think that a lot of models can't live off of getting paid every 3 months. Sometimes you need to get paid just then, and living off of pocket money, sometimes it feels not the best. So it's good to get paid quickly. So London's definitely a great market, and Paris is amazing as well. I definitely love working in Paris, and there's a lot of good like high fashion brands I find in Paris. It's always exciting to see what you're gonna get an email about, that's for sure. So
yeah, no, I can only imagine. I mean, and congratulations on the signings as well. I mean, that is really big. And like for people who know anything about entertainment, like, yeah, it's definitely months between the work that you do sometimes and the payments that you get. And we are living in an age where there's not really a reason for that. So I would agree with you there. About Paris, I hear a lot of people talk about it. What was your experience like when you first went to Paris? Because I hear people say that sometimes it's not what they expected in either a good way or in a bad way.
I definitely wasn't what I expected. That's for sure. You know, in movies and stuff like that, like it just kind of just it looks a lot like it's really close together or something. And the Eiffel Tower looks so amazing and huge, you know. And then you get there and it's like, wow, I thought it was bigger. I think it's just kind of like anything, you know. It's just you build something up in your head and then you get to see it in person. It kind of just really depends on what you think of it first before you get here. I think that a huge thing that is wrong. It's kind of a myth about Paris is that the people here are rude. I think that a lot of people here in Paris are actually very, very nice. And like, that's like an old kind of notion. Like Paris is actually quite nice. The food's amazing. The modeling is, you know, there's a lot of fashion in Paris. Like it's true that I can understand why this is a fashion capital. Like the trends here that they have with the clothing is just out of this world. You know, like when I first got here, I felt so out of place because I come from, you know, Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's just such a small thing where, you know, you wear leggings and a sweater and some Fila Disruptors or some like, you know, Air Forces, whatever, you know, and that's your outfit for the week. And like, that's fine. Like, of course, but that's what I thought the norm was. And I come here and I see, you know, people wearing like Louboutins, and I didn't know that Louboutins and Louis Vuittons were two different things. Like I thought that
Right.
people were saying Louis Vuitton when they were saying Louboutin. Like I
Yeah,
had
you
no
thought it was an
idea.
accent or something, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like I had no idea about any of these brands or what real nice clothing felt like, you know, like it's just so different, and the different quality of food and just everything is just so it's spectacular, you know, like, and it's definitely something I could have never imagined. So it's definitely not what I pictured, but it's better for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it seems like such a different world. But at the same time, from the outside looking in, like you seem to fit in there wherever you're going so well. Like you seem to be taking it all in stride. Like has there been moments that it's been
Thank
overwhelming
you.
for you, or is that how it actually is?
To be honest with you, it's I mean, it's you're separating yourself from your family and your friends, you know what I mean? Like I haven't been home for months and I don't know when I will be home again. I've decided to kind of move my life over to Europe, so it's really hard being apart from my mom, you know. Her and I are
Hmm.
really close. I haven't seen my brother in quite a while as well. It's hard not seeing my friends too. Like it's you know, I haven't seen you in God knows how long, like things like that, you know, like I don't know when I'm gonna be back to Canada. So like that shit's hard. Like but
Yeah.
that it takes a toll on you traveling so much and you know being in airports all the time, like the coronavirus right now. I'm not even gonna start talking about that because that is just taking up so much over here in Europe right now. People are just going on crazy about that. So
I
it's just
bet.
small things like that as well. Like no, well, not small things, but you know what I mean. Like just things like that. Like it's different being away from home, but I think it's different in a good way. And I think that a lot of people that are in small town like you and I know that you probably get this as well. You totally, I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong, that once you get out of a small town, you realize how small it is and you realize how much more there is in the world. Like you just realize so much and you just realize that like there's just so much more out there that like for me anyway, I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's just that's there's so much more like than where we were living. And it's just like hard to see that when you're living there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I totally know what you mean, and I think it's a unique experience for someone who comes from a place like we do, and it's a nice place to be. Like I love going there on vacation and such, but in terms of living there and opportunity for this sort of field, it's not the spot to be. So I think that's a good differential to make. But I came from Hammonds Plains to Edmonton. And when I got here for the first like 2.5 years, like this was like a huge city to me. Like this was the big city, and I couldn't believe how much they had. And then I've lived here for 5.5 years, and I went to Vegas for the first time, and that like it basically blew my mind because I've
Yeah.
never traveled to Europe or anything like that. But even just Vegas for the entertainment stuff, I was like, okay, this is a whole next level. So it's weird how it sort of you feel it. What feels big gets bigger as you see more. You know what I mean? And what feels small feels smaller.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's just like the nightclubs as well. Like the nightlife is just like we have the Dome in Halifax. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, and I miss the Dome. I do because I have homesickness just to Halifax. Like what is familiar is obviously you're gonna miss it, but it's just like you see other things. Like you go somewhere else and you're like, oh my goodness, like this is insane. Like, and it's so crazy to be able to be in a position where you get to experience things like that and get these opportunities. So it's crazy, you know, like, and it's it does change your everything, and it makes your mind get bigger, because you're just like, wow, like I can't believe anything like this existed. Like I couldn't even imagined it because of, what I was seeing before. So it's definitely like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to have a lot of fun too. You get to check out some nightlife and stuff. You mentioned food.
Yeah, that's just that comes back down to the promoter dinners, and there's this app actually, which like I hope you get it actually. Like I'm telling you, just get this app. It's called
Hmm.
Into. It's amazing. It's for people that are influencers, or have some sort of platform on Instagram, some sort of following. So you have to apply for the app. You'll definitely get approved for it. And it just has a bunch of different cities in it, and it allows you to get free drinks, free food, Pilates classes. Like there's some like really cool like ball pit clubs. Like there's a lot of things.
Wow.
Like there's different events in a lot of different cities. So I urge you to check that out. So that is something that I definitely take advantage of when I'm here. It's I don't think it's actually available in Paris, but it's available in other places in Europe. And there's an app such like the same as that in Paris called Beauty Pass, I believe. So yeah, those apps are amazing. You can just go. You have to take a photo for Instagram, that kind of thing, and then you get it for free. So that's kind of cool. And then with the promoters as well, you get free food, and then you get to go out and drink, and it's pretty crazy. It's just fun, and it's free. So anywhere there's free food, you'll find me pretty much. So yeah.
I think that's a safe bet for most people. That sounds dope. That's really cool. In terms of looking ahead, you've accomplished so much. I know you recently had some big walks with Fashion Week and such. What are you looking forward to, or what do you have as your next goal in this industry?
My next goal, that's a hard one, honestly, with this, just because it fluctuates so much. Like a
Yeah.
goal of mine in the industry at first was just to be able to be working in an international market, which I've accomplished that, and I'm really excited about that. So something that I was pushing myself for was to be able to do fashion. When I started fashion, I'm just touching 5'8", so I'm really not that tall. I'm considered a short model.
Hmm.
So I was told I wouldn't be able to do fashion week. I wouldn't be able to do shows. So doing the shows that I've done, the previous season that I've done, I walked for Dior. I'm sure that yeah, we've spoken about this, but
Yeah.
that was something that I just couldn't expect to happen. It was something that I was really excited about, and I think I think that I've gotten to my goals really with it. Like I think that for me, I never expected to get as far as I've gotten, and I don't think that I would have should have done any fashion week things like that anyways, because of my height. So I'm just, any job that I get next, anything that happens, like I'm just, that's what my goal is. Like I didn't expect to get as far as I did, and I'm just grateful to be here, and to travel, just being outside of Halifax. Like the next job that I get will be like, that's my next goal, really. That sounds stupid, but it's anything that I get, that's what I want. And so my ultimate dream, I'll throw this out there, is to work with Yves Saint Laurent. That would be insane, but
Right.
fingers crossed that will come someday. But for now,
Yeah.
just tomorrow, really, that's what I'm hoping for.
No, that totally makes sense, and when you put it in that perspective, especially because if in general it's massive accomplishments, but when you're told, oh, you have something holding you back, and then you still defy that and do something that would be hard for anyone. I mean, that's huge. So I'm so proud to see a friend of mine and to see you do stuff like this. This is amazing, and I love watching it, and I just can't wait to see what's next for you. Really.
Thank you, thank you. I'm really excited to see what comes next out of you, and I'm thinking that we're gonna have this conversation in about 5 years, and it'll be much different. So I can't wait to see what happens for both of us. And yeah, we'll be walking down the red carpet or something one day, and we'll be like, "Yo, we've been friends for a really long time." We'll be photographed in the same magazine
Exactly.
or something like that. So, I look forward to it. But for now, this is it. And I'd say you know where to find me, but I don't know where I'm gonna be. So just I'll be
You'll swing
around.
by like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man one day, and you'll say I'm in the area.
Yeah, it'll have to be something like that, because God knows. But
Hey, I might too. You never know where I might end up. I'm getting out to these auditions for some acting stuff right now, and doing the stand up. So you never know what might happen. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what happens down the line. And there you have it. my exclusive interview with Alexis Upshaw, calling all the way from Paris, France. I want to thank Alexis for taking the time to call in and share some knowledge about modeling. I knew nothing about the world of modeling. That's something that I learned today. And it's a fascinating world, and it's definitely something that that has sparked my interest. So let's just say that. Thank you again. Make sure to follow our guest on Instagram at Lexi Upshaw. And if anybody wants her for modeling work, she's working, she's available, she's got a great portfolio, so make sure to get at her. DM, email, all that good stuff at Lexi Upshaw on Instagram. The Cassius Morris Show airs on Apple Podcasts and YouTube every single week, multiple times per week. Make sure to subscribe on the audio page you're listening to now, be it Stitcher Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Libsyn, wherever you may be tuned in. Make sure you subscribe and leave a rating/review of the show. Be honest. You like it, you don't like it. I love to know what you think. Subscribe to the YouTube page, youtube.com/Cassius Morris. My Instagram is at Cassius Morris _ and at Cassius Photos. That's my photography account, Pro Photography. Go check it out. I'm on Twitter at Cassius Morris, Facebook.com/Cassius Show. And I can't wait to put out a new episode. We're going to have to cook something up. Sorry if I sounded hypocritical by saying I didn't want to talk about the virus off the top, and kind of did, but it's almost unavoidable. I hope it was minimal. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, this is Cassius Morris saying, rock on.